Morning. Are you good? Why am I not surprised that there's a little bit of slowness in the engine? Did you enjoy last night? I can't hear you. Did you enjoy last night? It was. Can we talk about that afterwards, please? I always say it wasn't me, it was my twin. I'm carrying a twin with me that sometimes get lost, in translation. No, I'm glad that you enjoyed yourself. We work hard, but we also play hard. And we don't mix, business with pleasure. We keep it apart. So let's do just that. Can we have just everybody settling down? Because we got a program to run. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you always party and then you lose things or you leave them behind. We've got someone's mouse here. I think it's a mouse. Still looks like a mouse. It's a genius mouse with a Energizer rechargeable battery. That's the only distinguished features. I can always drive it like this and see where it clicks. Does it click? It's yours. Here you go, sir. You can give it to the person there. Anybody else lost something? A jacket. Denim jacket. All right, we'll have to check in the lost and found, guys. I know with the whole thing, we sometimes leave things behind. I'm not going to blame you. I lost something also. Last night, I lost myself. When I review and look at the videos, I was like, Emna, it wasn't me that. Please, Muna, don't distribute them. Keep them safe. I think there's copyright on that. Yeah. But I'm glad that you enjoyed yourself. On serious note, we have to start, colleagues. I know there's some of you whose flights, are scheduled or pre-scheduled, and we wouldn't like to have you miss out on so many things. So I'm not going to spend any more time other than to say welcome this morning on our last and final day. I think we did good business. Tell somebody next to you and say, we did well. Yeah, you did well. That's good. That's good. That's the spirit. So without further ado, let us start off the day. Again, please, the bottle caps, as I mentioned, once you empty that, you just screw it off and hand it over to us or leave it somewhere in a strategic place. There's a box here, and I think there should be one at the back as well. That's for the Project for Disability. It's a project that was initiated by the NSFAS administrator, Mr. Nomvalo, and we are trying to support him in his effort there, to basically, encourage people to support the drive overall. It's for a good cause. Thank you so much. Then you remember the pad that you had underneath your plate last night, Dancing with the Stars, sponsored by Sadhguru. Our fellows from Sadhguru, they were able to actually display that and give that to us, as part of the branding, for the conference. So we appreciate that very much. I hope you take yours home. You can roll it up, actually, and you can store it and take it wherever you go. Next time, you won't lose your mouse because it will be attached to your pad. So I'm going to ask Mpho to start the day off for us. She's from NSFAS, and she's going to speak to us around the issues of NSFAS pre-funders. Mpho, you don't need any introduction as far as I'm concerned. So you may come forward. Thank you. Let's give her a hand. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay. Kali has organized bodyguards for me because apparently I need them. So, colleagues, thank you very much. I couldn't attend the first 2 days due to other commitments. that we had made, and I had to stand in for somebody. I do apologize to the FAPSA executive for that. The plan was to be here as per the scheduled presentations. What I've done, colleagues, is that I have prepared a presentation. I think we have enough time, if I looked at the time, Kali and the EXCO, to discuss issues that have, in a way, crept up on us in 2024. So thank you very much for the indulgence. Allow me, it shouldn't be a long presentation. When we are done, I'm happy to engage. Then I think we can move to the next page, please. Actually move back if you don't mind. I just want to look at the discussion points. Thank you. One more at the back. Thank you. One back. One more. One more. Yeah, the next one. Thank you very much. Colleagues, this is how I thought we should approach the presentation for us today. If you run through the discussion points, you'll see that at the bottom, I'm speaking about the MESITA recruitment drive, particularly for the TVETs. I hope the TVET colleagues are still here. I was requested to put something together to speak to them specifically, and also please allow us to do that. Those in the university space know that we've been at institutions recruiting for MESITA, so it won't come as a surprise to you. The next slide, please. Thank you. Colleagues, thank you very much. I think 2023 was a good year for us, from the point that if you look to how we ran through the year, we managed to recruit students, select them, have them approved. We managed to get them contracting, and we also managed to still make payment. And when I looked at the end of December 2023, we were already at 90% of the allocation for the 2023 academic year. So 2023 was a very good year for us. You may ask, what is the difference then? Where's the 9% that we haven't distributed? It would be catch-up payments where we need to correct exceptions, adjustments. Where we know that there's double dipping, it is that 9% that we may still need to clean up. And I also thought that by way of numbers, show you the total number of students. We were almost at 17,000 students. Some of the students have had to fall away as we did the audit and we worked through the ID numbers to make sure that we are not double funding. In terms of the funders themselves, we had 12 funders, and I say 12 because some of the funders may have more than one program. Then the top three, of course, the biggest one is Funza Lushaka. COID in the past 2 years have done very well for themselves in increasing our allocation, and they've come on board. They've surpassed, you'd remember that we had NetSkills, which was big prior to us going through with the new dispensation. Then SAICA, of course, they claim towards the end of the year. But what we are noticing is that the Department of Agriculture have done very well for themselves as well, where they have incorporated other programs onto what they do. So they are assisting the SAB. It's a new program. They are actually piloting it in 2024 to see whether they may be assisted. You remember the SAB particularly will recruit students that are in the space of agriculture and associated programs. We also know that the Department of Agriculture, by numbers, also assists agricultural colleges. Without the Department of Agriculture, I don't think we would have been able to assist in paying for the agricultural colleges, so they do very good work. And in terms of numbers, then you'll see that they would actually form part of that top three. So this slide, of course, I hope that the slides will be shared. It is just to give you a view of where we were in 2023. The next slide, please. Thank you very much. I know that we need also to plan and look at where we needed to be in terms of 2024. At the start of the year, and you'll see that you may think that it's not a mistake that we start in December. So now already in 2024, at this time, we're already talking to funders about building their own guidelines, approving policies, approving allocations, telling us exactly what they want to do for 2025. Hence, I speak to December, then we run it through the year. The plan is to have everything finalized by the end of November. And hence, we put this up as it looks like this. So some of the things may be internal to us at NSFAS. We show you also we are compliant with the PFMA on a quarterly basis. I need to report to all funders. We show them exactly where we are in terms of the program, and that is the one that is highlighted by the gray. The quarter 3 reports in December or Jan obviously speak to the last or the third quarter in the financial year. The quarter 4, of course, will come at the end of March, as you know. Quarter 1 is June or July, at least in reporting, and then quarter 2 is the one we are busy now with, which is quarter 2, and in October we are reporting. Then if you look to where the guidelines need to be provided, that would also be in December. So by December, we are already talking to the funders. We are asking them what they would like to do for the year following. Then also they are there then starting to talk about can they access results so that they are also able to decision and make sure that they are aligned. Forgive me. In February, we also need to see by then approved list of students, but we know now that in terms of the way the programs are set, there are funders. If you were, for an example, for the Funza Lushaka bursary program itself, it's a matter of that full selection process that takes, I've seen it this year, it took more than 4 months to complete, but all things being equal, by February, March, we should know which students are being funded. Then we should be communicating with you to send you those lists and tell you exactly which students will be funded by the funder, which also then allows us to make a determination of that first upfront payment, because as these processes are being rolled out, we then make sure that we advance some of the cash. Then as the year progresses, there may be a second opportunity to select students. Then we know that then the claims commence and then we run the year like that. The idea is that by the end of November, you should be certain and confirm that you've received funding, you've allocated it, and come back to us with a recon file, a preliminary one, which assists us then to write a bursary expenditure report that normally forms the Fs at NSFAS. The next slide, please. 2024, I'm just showing that to date, we are still working on the selection of students, the finalization thereof, and therefore the biggest number of students, of course, that we have is the Funza Lushaka. To date, we have 13,370 students. Some of the students, of course, are still coming on board. We see it that students who are finding out that they may have lost NSFAS funding, they may have lost a sponsor and so on, are reaching out to us to see whether there's any other funds. I'm just showing to those particularly in the room who may not be aware of how we approach this with the funders. The procedure is either that the funder themselves will go and get students to apply directly. They then confirm the funding or the students to us by way of a list that they provide to us. Or secondly, they may request that we assist them with recruitment or selecting the students, and we do that and we support that. Or finally, they may come to us and ask that we look whether we are able to select specific programs for them from the NSFAS database of students who may be aligned to their programs, but who may not have received funding when it was required. The next slide, please. This is a reflection on the 2023. If we were to work towards getting to 91% by the end of December, this year I'm doing dismally as a unit manager in that the funds are not moving. And that's what I wanted to reflect with us colleagues. You will see that for the smaller schemes, the payments have come through. You will notice, of course, that the biggest funder that we have, DBE Funza Lushaka, the funds are not moving. And that is a point that we are going to spend quite a bit of time on today. Your SAICA, of course, as you know, those who carry the program for SAICA will only claim from NSFAS once they are done with their portion of the claims. So at the moment, I expect that they will submit a full claim to us and that we will be able then to move up that 0% for SAICA particularly. Currently, of the allocation, which is 1.8 billion, we have only managed to pay 32%. It's not a good picture. So I'm not doing very well, and therefore we'll circle back to the Funza Lushaka problems, and we will talk about them extensively today, and also decide on a way forward. The next slide, please. Colleagues, most of you would have seen the slide. Here, we speak about the process of manual claims. What is it that is required? Once we receive the list of students from the funders or the funders have approved, we start the process of contracting with the students. We start collating the claims, and this we do manually, of course. These are submitted to NSFAS. NSFAS then will assess that claim and submit for payments processing. NSFAS pays and submits proof of payment to you, the institution, a remittance to confirm who we are paying for. If there are rejections, we'll also inform you formally. The institution is to confirm receipt of payment and settle students' fees accounts. Then the institution submits a reconciled file at the end of the academic year. As I've indicated, this would have happened at the end of November or in December. What we have now is a new process where our internal auditors are part of this process now. Please move on to the next slide. These would be the documents that are required for that claims pack. The claims letter is standard. It will come from your institution. It will be signed by a designated official, and on your letterhead specifying information. In that letter, you will say how much you are claiming. If there's been payments prior to what you are claiming for, assume it's claim 1 or claim 2, you'll reflect that now you are following up, and that will be specified as a summary in that letter. You will also show us that you've received, if you have, an upfront payment, and if that is so, you will show it in the letter. But then, what is being highlighted in red, because of that new step that is being introduced this year, is an upfront recon that needs now to be submitted with the claim. So if you've received the upfront, you will immediately show how you've distributed the funds that you received as an upfront payment. Then a standard would be a registration template. The claims amounts are stated there. You break down the benefits and you show per student. Then the documentation that is supporting that would be a student ID copy. We do have a repository of where you can upload that. Then the bursary agreement form. The two new inputs that are required now in 2024 is a fee statement. Another one is a private lease agreement if a student is living in private residence. So these ones are new, highlighted in red. The next slide. You may ask, what is the reason for the changes to the process? I've summarized and I've shared the slide already with some of the colleagues that I've spoken to. The closeout project, particularly when it comes to claims, some of their observations relate to inconsistencies between what is being claimed or full cost of study and the fee statement. So the two don't speak to each other. Institutional data includes a claim for accommodation as an example, whereas no accommodation was charged to the fee statement, and hence that request for the fee statement now. Of course, we know there's been instances of double dipping that are not accounted for correctly on the data itself that we receive or even reflected on the fee statement. Unfortunately, where we pick this up is too late when AGSA has already arrived and they are asking us, but why do you have the student here? When we see them at a SETA, we see them with another funder. At that point, of course, we would have made payment, and we need to then explain why we cannot account for that. Claims submitted by institutions for allowances above the cap amount And of course, we know that this could be issues related to whether the funder themselves have approved that cap, whether it's a matter of what we are used to doing perhaps as a norm. Then one other would have been payments made by NSFAS which are not allocated or allocated to an incorrect academic year, or in some instances not allocated at all. And we know that this could also be because you didn't receive proof of payment or confirmation of deposits or even a remittance, but also in some instances it's a matter of, it might be a timing delay on your side or processes that happen at the institution. Next slide. The issues that are related to the 2024 delays in payments, and I will go through this slide a little bit slower because this is the one I think that is the current bone of contention. So just as a background, and I'm just going to speak about the Funza Lushaka program because this program is the biggest that we run as a unit, but it's also one that carries most of the students for pre-funders. And also because the changes that are being picked up by internal audit and the AGSA, they come from this program. What it means by implication is that whatever is done on the program affects all other funders. In April this year, 2024, as we normally receive from the DBE, NSFAS received the confirmation of allocation from the DG at DBE. We would have set up the accounts and that was not a problem. A month later, we received a letter that seemed to have been penned by the National Treasury, which was specific in saying NSFAS has the obligation to ensure that the DBE implements austerity measures on this program with immediate effect. This was at the end of May. I looked at the letter and I think personally I thought to myself, well, of course this should also find expression in the policy guidelines of the DBE. Unfortunately, that was not to be. When I received the policy guidelines for the DBE in July, they were not necessarily related to what was being directed by the austerity measures that were intended by the National Treasury. It was still the same guidelines. It was the guidelines that were saying, if you read them, if there's excess funding, it must be refunded to the students. Then that's where the problem started. At the same time, then, of course, at the start of the administration period, the issues that are picked up in the COP itself, the administrator immediately said that we needed to make sure that we implement those measures with immediate effect, of course, which then, in a sense, has led to where we are today. One, this was middle of the year, academic year. Two, it was the second quarter of the financial year. Our internal audit team immediately started picking up on the following. So if you submitted a claim, they would immediately have asked for a sample of fee statements. So they took the fee statement, and that's the first item that I'm talking about. Here, the description for the fee statement is that the institution fee statement does not match the claim template totals. And where you would see this is that, and I'll make an example, the DBE policy guidelines speak about a teaching practice. It may be specified as an amount or not, determined by the university, at least by the Dean of Education. They speak about a living allowance, and they specify an amount, 6,000. Then they talk about accommodation. The accommodation, they say, as determined by the university or as a minimum. When you look at the fee statement, firstly, the teaching practice is not specified in some instances because we went through the exercise as a team. We took the claims, we requested samples from you, and we thought to ourselves, let's see this that is being seen by the auditors. On your fee statements, you have a way of working, of course. You've set up your systems in a certain manner. A living allowance, in some instances, is combined with meals. Some fee statements reflect a stipend. Some reflect a travel. There is no travel in the Funza Lushaka program. It's not a benefit. And so this is how then the auditors immediately said, we have a problem. Then we have to go back to look at exactly how this was determined now. You may know, of course, that NSFAS is not part of the selection process with the DBE. What I was blind to, and I'm confirming that I was blind to this fact, it's the quotations that universities send to the DBE where they request for funding. And then they receive signed confirmation by the DG that says you may continue in a certain fashion. When we picked up on this, we immediately requested that you provide us with those quotations signed by the DG because I didn't have them. Those quotations specify what you've requested from the DBE. The fee statements do not reflect what is on the quotation, which has added now another problem. So that is the reason now the fee statements were required. Now, of course, the idea was to request that institutions see whether within your processes you are able to amend, update, or make sure that the fee statements then speaks to what is being claimed. And that's what we have done. Your naming conventions, I've spoken about where you have a living allowance that's linked to meals. You may have a stipend which does not speak to what has been quoted. So that is what we are talking about. The idea then is to align to what has been quoted. Then there's overclaimed study costs. Now this is a little bit controversial, of course, because those guidelines still said the difference must be paid to the student. Now, is that overclaiming? You may look to it and say, but it's not, because over the past 5 years, that's exactly how things have been done. According to what we are being directed to do, no student should be receiving a refund from any institution, unless it's a living allowance. And this that I'm repeating is what is being reflected by the DBE in their communication. The first email I received when I queried, according to the DBE, that is not what was ever intended. Of course, I took the policy and I directed the DBE to those elements that are vague in their policy. And they are the ones, of course, that have led us here. Now, this has to be updated. It means that the actual cost of study is what must be claimed now. The only thing, according to the DBE, and I have all of this in writing, that may be paid to a student is a living allowance. We have a problem with student accommodation in that part of the submissions or the requirements of the new audit process is also fee statement. And if you say a student is living in a private accommodation, there must be a lease agreement that accompanies that. We couldn't find lease agreements, of course. There's various reasons. In this instance, and I'm not going to pick on Gugu and UP, but this is where it was picked up. I'm not picking up on you, Gugu. And I'll explain why I'm talking about Gugu. I'll speak about Ntabiseng just now also. So, what happened particularly in this instance, I'll come to UNISA and I'll also speak about UniZulu because they also had a unique issue. The first batch of assessments were done for UP and CPUT. So UP particularly was accommodation. When the auditors requested to sample, they picked up on a student and they asked, where's the lease agreement? And in this instance, UP said, no, but the student doesn't, lives at home actually. Student submits an affidavit, UP is claiming 60,000 for accommodation. So, and I'm going to go back to the point, it wasn't a mistake on the part of UP, it's what has been done. the past 5 years. The student writes back to you, to UP and says they declare they don't have a lease agreement, they actually live at home. Of course, immediately then this is shared with the DBE to say, DBE, by the way, you are the ones who provided NSFAS with a directive to look to austerity measures, and these are the things in practice that have been done. For DBE to come back immediately and say, well, that is not acceptable. So it's one instance that we picked up, but in looking at fee statements and data information providing to us, it's occurring everywhere else. It's another issue that we need to apply our minds to. Then I speak about UNISA, of course. The UNISA students also require accommodation, but in the guidelines, the issue related to unaccredited accommodation presents with a problem. The students don't have lease agreements. They may be living at home. Of course, they do need accommodation depending on their circumstances, which presented another problem. Then for Ntabiseng and CPUT, because students of where they are located, I believe most of Mpumzi students are in Wellington, they need travel. So that component of travel was also added to the claim. But DBE itself does not have a travel as a benefit, which also then presented with another problem. So those two instances is where the auditors immediately said, this needs to be clarified. Either the DBE condones what we do this year, or DBE gives us an instruction. DBE is not condoning. DBE is saying we need to implement these measures with immediate effect. So colleagues, we are at a, it's a problem for me, but we need to move forward. So I thought I should share that. Then the recommendation to DBE by us has been that they align perhaps to the NSFAS policy, or they come up with a policy, but one that is usable and user-friendly so that you also are aware and you are able to work with it. That's something that may happen in the future, 2025, I'm hopeful. Then I spoke about the allowances that have been combined and paid as one, meals being combined with living allowance and other things in some instances. There's been instances where accommodation that was quoted to the DBE is lower than what is actually being claimed, and therefore that's a problem, because now that I'm looking at the quotations that are signed, in a way, if you said your accommodation, your minimum housing or residence is 29,000 and a student is living in accommodation that's 41,000, it's a problem. So it's something also that we are dealing with. To the next slide, please. Other challenges that don't pertain particularly to the DBE, we have had a problem, of course, with SETAs. The assessments and evaluation process takes long. We know that. Of course, the rejection of applications, ID document being unclear is the biggest one. I think we argue about these ones all the time, where I say, but I can see the ID, they can't see the ID. You know, we take a box, we put it up in a PDF, or else we send it to them electronically, but for some reason, of course, this is always a bone of contention. However, we managed to deal with this. Fortunately for us, particularly for MESITA, and I must thank you, colleagues, we managed to meet the target for MESITA, by the way, in 2023, despite the fact that we started recruitment in September, so that's a good place to be. Communication, of course, you know, when we do come out and try to verify, which is what the SETAs particularly need to make sure that we see the students, and this is physical, and availability, of course. We know that you have your own program. Students could be writing exams, they could be traveling, they could be doing other things. So, of course, the communication there was very important, but I think we've also come a long way in terms of the way we talk to each other. The 2023 payments, for MESITA particularly, as much as we recruited, we received funding only in February for 2023. We made payment, but we are still continuing with those payments to date. I'm not going to spend much time on double dipping. I think with double dipping, we know now that we need to do more work. Some of the recommendations that we're coming up with for double dipping is that we perhaps need, as a sector, to define what double dipping is for ourselves and for the auditors, so that we don't always fight. If a student receives part funding, I think that should be defined properly so that those students are not penalized. I'm showing then that to date, in the claims that I've received, there's 3,200 students that are sitting on the NSFAS database. So of course now we need to come back now and ask, who are these students? Why were they selected by a funder? And why then are they on the DHET database? Half of them particularly have received allowances. So it's something now we need to go back to, understand your process again, and remember your processes are unique. And I think what we've done as a team is that we try to understand how you deal with these things so that we can also follow your logic. Next slide. I've met with the funders yesterday, and colleagues have apologized for not being here yesterday, or at least when the conference started. They also wanted us to talk to these issues, so I had to go and see them. And it's exactly what we all are complaining about. The non-payment of fees and other benefits, late disbursement of allowances, some students graduating not receiving their certificates. In instances, there's accrual of interest. Some students have had debt collectors knocking at their doors. Of course, we know that students right now are facing hardship because of non-payment. Accommodation particularly is not being paid. So these are exactly what we know and we've reflected on also as a unit. Next slide. Colleagues, I think we've spoken about this, and to the colleagues who've come on board, thank you very much. What we are recommending is this. Please submit your claims 1 and call it claim 1, and I'll tell you why. This is where immediately you can show and link to the artifacts you have, fee statement, any other information. If you know that this is a clean claim you submitted, then we can process this claim. Of course, we'll be talking to each other about what is the balance, what is the difference. We'll look at that as claim 2, particularly private accommodation. As we progress and we talk, how then do we assist students so that the rest of the benefits can be paid for this particular year? So if you know that your claim is close to what is required, please submit it without delay. Thanks to the institutions that have done so, we've worked through it. I think the team has been working 24 hours every day, including weekends, just to make sure that we have clean files. We are, I think, but as of my count to this morning, for the Funza alone, we are at 6 institutions where the claims are starting to look good, and we are ready to recommend them for approval. For double dipping 2024, I've spoken to the operations team at NSFAS, and where students, particularly the 3,200 that I'm talking about, where they have statuses that may be pending, whether it's awaiting evaluation, funded, provisionally funded, and so on, if they are on that 3,200, we are requesting that you confirm that these students are nominating a pre-funder. If we have that in writing, then I can submit them to Andisa and the team and request them then to unfund those students immediately. But I also need to say this to you, colleagues. This question was asked by AGSA 4 years ago. It is the student that's affected by this process. Where is the student in this process? What declarations are they signing? How are they communicating that they are deselecting a funder? Because when 2 years from now, they are not selected by COID, by Funza and whoever, they may be the same ones who come back to NSFAS and say, oh, but you funded me, and you said, you know, I'm guaranteed an N+, and so on. We need to figure out in your processes how the student takes responsibility for selecting the funder. So please assist me in that regard. We are trying not to prescribe a declaration, but a declaration is one that simply says, I'm selecting COID, I'm not selecting DHET, and so on. So that should be accompany the instruction. The cancellation email address was confirmed by the team. It is that one particularly. It's the one where I am saying the student must elect a funder. If the allowances have been paid for that student through the DHET, also the funding must be returned to NSFAS. I'm sure you know how this should work, particularly for your institution. It may be something you want to do immediately, or you may want to do it when you do your own recons internally, but it's the speed at which this is done that will allow us then, on the other side for pre-funder, to allow approval to happen, because you can imagine, I cannot make payment until this is resolved. So this is something that I am going to request that you immediately focus on. Do you return the funds immediately or not? Then when I asked for advice from the NSFAS DHEAD process, they are indicating that NSFAS funding, where cancelled, DHEAD will reverse payments where possible and knock off against the next disbursements. But of course, we are almost at the end of the year. It may be that students have received most of their allowances, so it will depend on the situation. So it's either the funds are returned or knocked off, whichever one comes first. So this is a recommendation. Thank you very much. Next slide. For 2025, we have to change what we have been doing, so the manual process has to go. And I'm saying this because now that we know that is the actual cost of study that must be paid for all students, for all government programs, we do need to go back to work on the NSFAS platform. And I think you know that this is dependent on how you run your own processes internally. What does it mean then for us, for pre-funders, if everything is run now from the system? Of course, I've requested our ICT colleagues to see how soon this can be done. They've requested, of course, the information from us, the setup of the funders, benefits, thresholds, the way in which we set up allocations, so that then they can automate the process. As you know, this may be problematic at a start, and of course, then we need to look to mitigations, of course, to see how, when one of the processes fails, we are going to pick up on that. We will request you to provide us with ingestion data, which reflects biographical information of students, and of course, we will request you to upload registration when the time comes. Of course, you know that with funders, that they may be choosing students a little late in the year, so I'm going to request that you please bear with us when that happens. Another reason that we think we should do this is this. An unintended consequence of the private accommodation accredited by the NSFAS has been that pre-funded students did not know that this year they may not actually take up the offer to be in these residences that are on the pilot. Remember, if we had known, we would have set this up for 2024, where then that process would unfold, where then these landlords could submit invoices and so on. But the way in which manual claims are set up, these students are the ones that are facing the biggest hardship. So that's another reason why we have to really force ourselves to work on the system, and I'm requesting that you please work with us on that. We will, of course, still petition the funders to make sure that there's an upfront payment, because that always assists. Then we can always, of course, knock off on that. We may decide on the percentage. Is it still the 10%, or do we increase it while all of this is happening? Something we need to also apply our minds to. Then we also need then to confirm exactly how the bursary agreement form process will work. This is still a requirement for funders. Does it mean that we still collect these ones by hand? It's still an option. If then our ICT team is able to assist, then we may then work on these through the system. Then of course, then we will make sure that we engage you as we have done as a team going forward. So this is a recommendation, colleagues, and I think if we are not bold enough to take it immediately, I will be standing here next year talking about delays in payments, and it's not a good place to be. Next slide, please. Colleagues, this is the part where I thought we should speak to the TVETs. So the first part of the presentation is done, so please bear with us. I truly want to get the offering of funding by SETAs. So MES-SETA particularly, and it's not the only funder, the only reason I'm talking about MES-SETA is because they are the ones who asked us. In 2023, it was year one of a 3-year contract, where they are saying to us they also want to see an equal number of TVET students being funded on this platform by the MES-SETA with the funding that they have availed. And I'm saying to the TVETs, I know that you work with SETAs quite a lot, but it's very important that you please align to what is required. In I think the past 4 weeks, we had to go to the MESITA board to explain to them why we didn't have TVET students in 2023. And of course, we immediately said that we didn't want truly to put the TVETs in an awkward position of coming to them at the end of the year requesting students. And therefore, that they have accepted, but they will not accept it for 2024. So for TVETs particularly, please be aware that the funding is available, missing middle students only, sorry. And they are quite pedantic about it because they're saying there is funding for students that meet the NSFAS policy financial eligibility process. So they are quite strict about it, and the students must produce information that shows that they fall within the missing middle criteria. The funding benefits are standard. It's tuition, it's books, accommodation, meals, and a living allowance. And as you know that for SETAs, it is not a negotiation. If information or artifacts are not complete, they will not accept what is being submitted to them. So it's important. Please ensure that with all information you share, fully completed and signed application forms, certified copies of their clear identity documents. Of course, we still have the headache of getting the students to do a print of both the back and the front of their ID copies. That is very, very important. If there's a vague number, an unclear one on that ID, it is outwardly rejected. Academic transcripts or recent academic results, matric results for first year students, 2023 results for continuing students, proof of 2024 registration in a relevant program, parents or guardians' identity documents, a death certificate if a parent is deceased, proof of income for both parent or guardians, and any other relevant documents specified in the application form. We are calling for these applications. It's a short window. We would like to close on the 25th of October, 2024. We know it's a short period. We are happy to assist. You will let us know if you need us to come through and assist you with the recruitment. We are showcasing also the programs or the skills priority for MESITA. It's all of the mechanical engineering, chemical, electrical, industrial, mechatronics, civil engineering, electronic, power engineering, robotics, and also upon our request, they are including financial management, operations management within manufacturing, and also computer science for software developers. So it's specific in the requirements for each type of learner. You'll see that they classify their learners. There's an entered learner who's a first year of that qualification year, and they have specifics for that. So that information then would determine that that student or learner is selected. They have something, of course, they call continuing learner. This is from year 2 onwards, and even there they specify what they need. You'll see that the big difference there would be that the matric certificate would not be required for continuing learner. Then, of course, also they go and they look at what they classify as a completion learner, and there they want to see a clear copy of ID, any of the following: copy of completion, graduation certificate, letter from university or college indicating qualification obtained, final statement of results indicating qualification obtained. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Impo. I think that was very insightful. I think it gives us a view in terms of what really is really transpiring within the pre-funded space. I think you would agree with me, the issue, for example, of double dipping, and as well as the issue around the change, in the operational setup of Funza Lushaka did come as a surprise to us on the aspect that there wasn't in our view, not proper, sort of engagements on that level. But be it as it may, I think, colleagues, this is your opportunity just to pose one or two questions to Mpo relating to a presentation. So can we have an idea whether we've got any questions at this point? By the raise of hands, please. We move our way forward then. You can just introduce yourself and then from what institution you are. Thank you, Ntabisi.
Good morning. My name is Katleo from Vembeti Vet College. I just want to know if the Mersita Bazar will cover both NCV and Report 191. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Palele Mbuyazi from University of Zululand. My question is actually directed to sitters. Is it possible to receive payment before application if maybe they pay us as they've said that the pre-funders will make the payment before or prior or as early as possible. If we can have that, because we are having issues in our institution whereby we submit application to sitters and it takes about 2 to 3 years to make payments. And we'll find out students end up applying for more sitters, and that's when the issue of double dipping end up becoming a huge problem.
Good morning. Mine is just to check whether are the applications online or is it manual. Thank you.
Next question, please. Are we covered? Oh, there's another hand. How many are we now? We have 1, 2, 3. Can we take another 2? Yeah. All right, 2 more. All right, you can go there.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm Motlazi from University of Pretoria. I just need clarity regarding the refunds, because mostly refunds are applied by students who have made their own payment during registrations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, can you just define what funder are you referring to? Are you referring to Funza Lushaka?
Funza Lushaka, yes.
All right, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Johannes from University of Pretoria. So simple, we appreciate the presentation and insightful information. I so wish, I'm not sure if DBE is here, because I see NSFAS is doing a very good job, and you are actually implementing what the sponsor need, which is a good thing. Now, the changes on Funza, you'll recall, colleagues, that previously, if the cap was 128, we'll claim the same amount. It only started recently. And now, what I want to highlight is that in as much as DBE is implementing austerity measures, in my own view, the packs that the students were getting are the reasons why students chose Funza Lushaka. So now, with these austerity measures, it's now, even NSFAS is offering much better packs than Funza Lushaka. So I so wish DBE can relook at this, because at the end, we'll have more unspent amount going back to DBE, DBE taking that money back to Treasury as an unspent. So I so wish DBE can relook at this. And the other thing is that Funza Lushaka is no longer placing students. So Funza is now looking like NSFAS. And the main mandate for Funza to exist is to make sure that it deploys teachers in deep rural areas. So it looks like it's no longer attractive. I wonder how will DBE be able to place the students, because they are no longer placing the students. So I so wish DBE can relook at this. And even the consultation on this issue, I don't think it was very broad, because most of us only saw it in the allocation letters, that even on the guideline of DBE. So I saw submit. And the allowances that are not reflecting on the fee statement, I'm not sure about other institutions, but in our case, allowances are debited as and when we allocate them to students. Like for now, you will not see allowances for November because they are not appearing on the fee statement. We only make them appear as and when we pay students. So it's something that you should also look at to say, when you say allowances are not appearing, there are things that we are giving to students that are not appearing. It's because futuristic allowances are not reflecting. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, can we call that? We've got 5. Can we answer, and then if there's more, we want to do one more. Can we do one more, then we close the round? Is it okay? All right, one last one. Very good memory.
Good morning, colleagues. It's Pinky Kwala from MUT. My question is on double dipping. The problem that we have is that when we select students at the beginning, you find that those students are not funded by NSFAS. Like we did our selections in July, and those students were not funded by NSFAS. But during contracting, then some of those students were now funded by NSFAS. Isn't there a way for your team to work with your NSFAS bursaries section in resolving those and actually solve them on your side? Because actually the double dipping doesn't come from our side. The other question is on the turnaround time for the, like for instance, our NSF General, the whole process, the pre-selections, the contracting and everything was done, and we have been waiting for the payment. What is your turnaround time on the payment once all the processes have been completed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's allow Paul to respond to those questions. All yours.
Thank you very much. Katleho started by asking if MESITA will cover both NCV plus report 191. Yes, Katleho, they will cover that. I hope I'm responding to that. Then I just want to also pick up on whether the applications will be online or not. The applications are not online. The reason for them not being online is that the project team at MESITA, because of the issues that they pick up with documents, actually upload the documents to their NSDMS system only once they have satisfied themselves that that pack meets their standard. So it is manual. What we do is we will assist you. If it means that we come and we do this ourselves, we will do so. Please let us know how you want us to assist you, and we will do so, because it will be new to you and we don't want you to lose out on the process. So I suggest that we start communicating immediately, and I know because it's the first time, you may end up with what we had last year. I just want to demonstrate. We actually, because we knew our target was 300, we recruited 700, I think, students. 60% of those were rejected, and we had to top up because of the strict requirements of the process. So it's a painful process when you start on it, but now that we are on top of it, it's clearer on what needs to be done. So the applications are not online. I'm not sure on the question by Uni Zulu as to the SETA payments. And I know when you say that some of the payments may come a year, 2 years, and 3 years later. So what I've picked up is that in the instance of MERSETA, we've contracted as NSFAS directly with MERSETA. But I'm also aware that you as institutions may hold your own contracts with the SETAs. And I know in one instance where one specific university had a direct contract with the SETA for 2022, and to date they still haven't been paid. In fact, we were talking about it yesterday with the specific SETA, and they are dealing with it from that perspective. What we do, and maybe I just speak to reflect on the MERSETA one, once they have approved what we select, we invoice them and they will pay NSFAS. Then you submit your claims and we make payment. So of the students that are approved for 2023, if payment hasn't been done and those students were approved, we are still holding those funds. They are now, of course, being subjected to this new process that I'm talking about, where you may have received payment, but then the second batch of payment held up because of it's being subjected to the same process that we are talking about today. So if they've been approved, that funding should come through once we've clarified those issues. I hope I'm responding to that UNIZILO issue. The refunds for FUNZA. And I know this question was asked to me by Spogazi at UFS, whether these austerity measures can be implemented in 2025. Unfortunately, no. In the directives I've received from the DG at DBE, it's with immediate effect. So I know you said that some students pay, I think that's what you said. Students pay for their own registration and so on. Those refunds then should go to the student. There is no problem with that as long as it's reflected to be exactly that, of course, as you capture it on the fee statement of the student, where you're showing that the student is receiving the refund, and it's linked to the fact that the registration then is being replaced by the claim that you're submitting for DBE or FUNZA, as long as that is reflected and there's information linked to it. So that would be for your registrations. Johannes, I think we've had this conversation, and I think you speak for all financial aid officers that deal with Funza Lushaka. So Funza Lushaka is my client, and therefore I will limit it to this. The communication could have been better. Had we known about this, we would have prepared properly. And I think between NSFAS and the financial aid officers, it became clear when I knew within 24 hours that we had a problem, that I called those who had submitted claims into a meeting to inform you of this. There has been problems. There are issues that I believe from a policy perspective should be dealt by DBE. And therefore, those I believe we should all raise when we meet with the DBE. I believe we're supposed to meet with them on the 29th of November, 2024. And that exactly how you're reflecting it, Johannes, is how it should be reflected with the DBE. Both, I think some institutions, and I'm more aware of CPUT because they included us in their communication to the DG, they immediately wrote to the DG stating all these issues, and you've received a response in Tabiseng. That response doesn't help much in what was required. I think Spogazi, you're going to meet with the DBE also to say, can these be implemented in 2025? In the responses I've received, and it's not one response, all the directives are saying implement immediately. So colleagues, the communication could have been better, but I think we need to get ready for the 29th of November. We all need then to be able to I think we need to be clear in how this has disrupted the sector, particularly the students that are not getting access for accommodation in private residences. So we need to be very clear, and I think we should plan for what we need to do for the 29th of November so that we get away with what we need. And colleagues, I'm going to also request that you please apply your minds again to the policy and the guidelines of the DBE so that when we get to that session, we are specific in what is problematic, what cannot be implemented, and what has caused us the anxiety that we are going through. So Johannes, I support what you are saying, the communication could have been better. As to the placement of students, I think DBE in their own bursary agreement form, when they contract with the student, even when the students apply, they have an obligation to place the students. If that is not happening, of course, then it's something that is not being done to complete the process by the DBE. So fully agreed, Johannes. Pinky, you are correct. So when we received your claims in July, we immediately requested that those ID numbers be checked to see whether these students are not DHET funded. There seems to be a timing issue. You are right, at the point at which you submitted the claim, we didn't get the feedback that these students are funded by DHET. When we requested the same information to be clarified in September, either the statuses were updated, suddenly those students were funded. But over and above what you are asking, in an instance, I think it's Indira, we picked up that those students that are funded should not be funded. So these students are second qualification students, they've exceeded an N+. Now the auditors are saying, but we can't ratify this unless it's resolved. So you are correct, Pinky. I think what is missing is communication between us and the NSFAS team, data team, to say how soon can these be cleared at a point of payment. That is what now has led to your issue about the turnaround time. How soon then can we clear all of this? Colleagues, I'm again asking that we be allowed to clear what we are sitting with. My plan is that I'm already preparing for a submission to AGSA in March. We need to show what we have done when we received these directives. And that's what's taking longer. And therefore, Pinky, to your point, the payment schedule, which I didn't put up here, I do have it, and I apologize for not putting it up. I'll share it with you. Our payment schedule is clear. We will tell you exactly what our cutoff point is for claims, if claims are required, when the payments will happen. But remember, going into 2025, if we are working through the NSFAS system, then those payments should be aligned to when universities are paid and when TVETs are paid. So in a sense, going forward, we should then align to that. So Pinky, I think the issue that you are raising is exactly that. It normally doesn't take this long. In our SOP, particularly previously, we stated that we would make payment within 15 business days. We've exceeded that many fold, because since August, payments have been problematic. So Pinky, that is the point that you are making. We should have a schedule and we should stick to it. Colleagues, I hope that of the ones who ask questions, I've covered you. If I haven't, I'm still around if you want to talk about the process and perhaps some of the things that we didn't reflect. Thank you, Chair.
Hi, thank you for that info. Johannes, you know, I was at the beach this morning at about 5:30, I think it was. Yeah, true. I was there. I was doing my morning run. And then I was on the lookout at the pier there, and I saw the swimmers in the water. I was very tempted to jump in there. But let me tell you what I saw there. I had the feeling that sometimes we, as operational people, are sometimes thrown into that big ocean. But what I observed that was interesting is that there was a change somehow in the tide, you know, with the water. And what was interesting, when the swimmers jumped in and they were in the middle of that huge waves coming, it was like the tide was changing. And I was surprised at what I observed. Instead of them swimming straight out, they changed direction. So 1 or 2 times they were taken aback, you know, with the waves. It looks like they come through, but they went back. But eventually they changed direction. But you know what the surprise is? They still end up on the beach. We sometimes have to just readjust. And I know it's painful sometimes, colleagues. And it doesn't come easy. But I think what Umpo is saying is that, you know, together we can overcome even this challenge. But let's learn one of the words and continue to learn that. When we started off, one of the words was agree. Are you still with me? Can we agree? Ah, man, you can give me better than that. Can we agree, colleagues? Yes, we can agree. Umpo, thank you so much for that presentation. I take it there's no more questions, but she mentioned that she will be around. If you still want to engage with her, please, you are protected, don't worry. No, I'm just joking. Colleagues, please talk to Mpo there and just, deal with her. Share with her your concerns. I'm sure she will definitely engage with you as she normally does. Thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution. Let me just grab my program. Colleagues, we had to adjust here and there, so I apologize for the change. But we're going to jump right into it. Are you still together? I like partying, guys. But hey, the next morning, it's challenging. I'm not pointing fingers, right? I'm feeling it, don't worry. That's why I'm a little bit slow this morning. Let's not waste any more time. I'm now going to call on another one of our partners to do just a word of, or a message actually of support, and that comes from SAPCO, Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Ngobo. Is that correct? Please, sir, join us. Welcome. Let's give him a hand.
Program Director, thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of a South African public college organization. We could not attend on Wednesday because the department requested our delegation from KZN to be in a meeting with them on Thursday. Now, when the department calls you, you don't ask, you simply, comply. And that is why we could not come. And then I was then requested to make a trip down to KZN on Wednesday afternoon, and I found myself here. So 1,000 apologies for that. And I think my message of support would also take the form of message of congratulations, because I cannot be supporting a conference that is already at the end. So one just needs to congratulate FAPSA for the good work that they are doing as an organization in supporting also and also accommodating our TVET student financial aid, officers who are swimming. Like we were mentioning the example that you mentioned about the swimmers in the morning. So we find ourselves there. And the good thing about the message of support, call it message of congratulations, is that there won't be any clarity-seeking questions after I've spoken, like it happened with him. So I have that liberty to say whatever that I want to say, but I'm not going to abuse that. Right. I think protocols have been observed, and I would also go on those, protocols. And then we appreciate as an institution or as an organization the vital role that you play in supporting our students in their academic journeys. Your tireless effort to navigate complex financial aid system from where we are, we appreciate that, and we understand what is happening. By the way, I was also in my previous life a student support. I ended up also systems and also making use of the spreadsheets that were there. I learned VLOOKUPs there, and I saw even yesterday that you are still doing that. So really, we understand what you are going through. We also acknowledge that there are challenges that we are facing navigating ever-changing regulations and policies. And it is clear even in the presentation today that there are ever-changing policies and regulations. Today you promise students that, and then the following day you tell them that I can't fund you because there is an immediate effect that the department said. And you are at a cold face. We are sitting in our air-conned offices, and then you have to face the students. So really we understand that. Managing increasing workloads and tight deadlines. You get an email today, you need to respond before the end of the day. So we know that, and if you don't respond, it becomes a problem. balancing compliance with student centers, principles. Know that your hard work and dedication are valued and recognized. You are the unsung heroes of the higher education sector, and your impact on student lives, it is immeasurable. As SACPO, we support you in your mission to make higher education accessible and affordable. Our belief is that quality education did not cost a fortune. And I think that is what you are really doing as the financial aid officers. Empowering students to achieve their academic and career goals, building relationship and trust with student partners, funders, and colleagues. One cannot go without touching on the pertinent matters that bedevils the sector, and hasten to agree that with a clear, undiluted intention, we can resolve them. One is that as the TVET sector, when the investigation by the SIU started, it started like a media hype of some sort, where TVET colleges were accused of either mismanagement or maladministration of the funds that we received. We have condemned this, but I think our voice was not that enough, because when the Hawks come or when the SIU come, they come with media. And when you call media to try and address this, media is no more coming. But we are really not, we're not saying that the investigations that are taking place are not necessary. Yes, they are necessary. But how you do them, don't tarnish the name of the TVET colleges by just saying that, yeah, they had 30 million, now we recovered that. As if we did not know about this. As if we have not put this money. As if as the college principal, you took this money and go and bought a Lamborghini. So really, those are some of the things that we need to address. Right. Secondly, is that within the TVET sector, we still have unclosed report, close-up report of 2017-2018. I was in the other institution when we started this, after the then President Zuma says, no, enroll students, do this, do that. We are still not yet resolved that. And I think that is part of the reason why we ended up with the SIU. The issue of historic debt within the TVET sector. We never benefited as the TVET sector about this. We write off debts every day. And when universities correctly so fought against this issue of the historic debt back then in 2017, 2018, there was allocation that was given to them so that they can cushion the debt that they are experiencing from their students. As the TVET sector, we have never done that. We have fought with the department, we are still in negotiations with them. Somewhere we are told that no, there is money somewhere, but to apply for this money, it's like applying for an RDP house in China. And the requirement is that you must be 3.5 meters tall. So you are not going to get it. We support the call to be responsible in the implementation of the unfunding of students, as it was addressed yesterday, because it poses a very serious challenge if it's not going to be managed that well. We want to congratulate FAPSA on hosting this conference themed Building a Unified Future Collaboration and Partnership. We believe that it is through collaboration and working together that our objectives can be achieved. And I think the issue of collaboration, maybe we need a conference still on this, because it can resolve so many issues, including the issue of double dipping, including getting an email that the AG wants this information from the college. When we are all of us within the PSET sector, I always make this example. When I go to House and Home today, and I apply for a loan that I want to buy this bedroom suite or this sofa, I have one number, and that is my ID. Now, House and Home would know that Tsepo Ngobo today has applied for this and we have approved. If Tsepo Ngobo then decides to go to the other House and Home within the PSET sector and make an application, the system will pick up that Tsepo Ngobo has applied and has been funded for this, therefore cannot apply again. But with us, it's not just like that. I need to answer to NSFAS as the principal, as the TVET, as the university, that this student was once or is still funded by Mersita there. Why are you applying this? All people, this student still has outstanding results. But the student has wrote, has passed. This student still has outstanding results. But the student has wrote, has passed. But this information cannot be picked up by either NSFAS. Now you must write those long letters of motivation, submit that the student has passed, and yet we are in the 21st century, we are a tertiary institution, but we are not able to come up with systems that can make us work harder, work smarter and not harder. We are committed as SACPO to support and resource, and I need to qualify resource, FAPSA, in your endeavor so that you can continue making a meaningful difference in the lives of our students. As financial aid practitioner of South Africa, you are a unified force that needs to be fully integrated in terms of a registration process, examination resulting in this. I'm trying here to say that if we could have a system that it's fully integrated from registration right up until to certification, we would be able to eliminate some of this. But also there is this call from the TVET sector, and it is coming both from SAFETA and also political formation, student formation within the sector, that we would want, and I'm speaking now as a TVET member, that we would want our students to be funded for work integrated learning. Our qualifications currently, students, especially those that are doing report 191, they are funded for theory, which is the first 18 months. Now, for them to get a full qualification of a national diploma, they need to complete another 18 months or 24 months, depending whether they are in engineering or in business studies. Funds are not enough for this work integrated learning. Yes, we are working with CETAs, we are requesting them to assist us, they would assist you, but you do find that those funds are not enough. So there is going to be, and I think it has already started gathering traction, that we would request that they be funding for this work integrated learning. Thirdly, sustainability against dwindling numbers in the TVET sector. We need to say this. Possibly it might have been told that we are phasing out report 191 N1 to N3. That phasing out has already started. By 2027, we would even have phased out N6 in both engineering and business studies. Now, this is going to put a strain on TVET colleges in terms of the number of students that we can be able to enroll, and also affect the 20% that we are getting from department because we are funded based on the number of students that is there. So we then need to reposition or repurpose our role also even as financial aid officers because there may be minimized work that we need to perform because now the number of students that were there, they are dwindling. Already you can see that like for an example, in 2024, our projection based on the funding grid, we're projecting to get 486,000 students versus 710 that we're funding in 2019. So it tells you that the numbers are dwindling. Right, yeah. And as far as you know, you are our partners and we like you, and we know that Arbato Poramurek. But our edge here is that the number of pilot projects that NSFAS is coming up with from 2014 up until now, there's always pilot. We need to learn on this pilot project and implement the findings that we've found in this pilot projects, because we are forever piloting, right? And I think the last one, we are also urging a SACPO that there be a professional development for financial aid officers within the TVET college because we are making these workers or the staff of ours to swim without giving them the necessary tools. They are there is nothing that we could do, even if we could get new ones. But there should be more effort on professional development programs and also empowering programs, especially for our officials in the sector. As SACPO, we would support that. I thank you.
I think you made it clear, no questions. Yeah, you gave us all the answers. But I want to quickly just tell you, Mr. Ngoba, there's another side to that loan from House and Home. You know, House and Home, after you applied for the loan, they granted the loan, but they didn't give you the money because they're waiting for the stock. Later on, they realized that they're not having that couch. And then you went down the road to Lewis. And when you applied to Lewis, House and Home didn't release you from that loan because they want to keep you bound there until the stock comes next year. I'm not going to say no more on that one. Can I ask if Mr. Governor from FNB is here? He's here. Thank you, sir. If you could join us. We have his presentation ready. Wendell, we've got his presentation ready, right? Can we give him a warm welcome? We're excited to have you here with us. Let me not hide that. And we're looking forward to a lasting relationship and building collaboration with you and the organization you're presenting as well. So you may come forward. I think you forwarded us a presentation. I don't know where you want to speak on that presentation, or would you like to? They're going to bring it up now. I did give it to them. Yeah. So the floor is yours. As soon as they get you. You can
will go first, and then
yeah, yeah, sure. You want to raise it?
A little bit, not too much.
There.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Here you go. Yeah, they play it from this, so you can just give them it's okay. There you go.
Okay.
Just tell them to the next slide. Okay.
you give me the go rate from there till the next time.
Okay. Let's see if I really- Okay. Okay. A very good day to all of you. I'm sure you've partied quite a lot last night. I had a little bit of engagement with Mr. Maraj, and he said y'all had a ball of a time. For those of you that traveled, you're very fortunate. Y'all are blessed with wonderful weather in Durban over the last 3 days. So my name is Chantal Naidu, and I am within the FNB Public Sector Banking segment, and we caretake the educational institute. So therefore, we have been invited to this particular conference. So we as bankers within the FNB arena we want to simplify banking for the educational institutes. I'm going to be quickly touching on 3 specific topics because we have limited time, and my colleague Daya is also going to be presented. So pardon me if I go through the presentation very quickly, but we will allow for engagement afterwards, okay? So we're going to touch on integrated channel, receipting validation, and student payments. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so integration channel value proposition. So what is the integrated channel value proposition? So it's simply optimizing the money in and the money going out of the entity's account, okay? And it's focusing on productivity, proactivity, control, and efficiency. So that's just a high level in terms of integration channel value proposition. And I think because of time, it's also solutionizing, once again, for immediate real-time transactions being deposited into your entity's account. So if we could just move to the next slide quickly. All right, so what is integrated channel? So essentially, integrated channel consists of 3 areas. Okay, you got your online banking platform, and you got your host-to-host, and you got API. Now, when I started doing computers, the buzzword was DOS. Today, the buzzword is API. So what is API? API is, just remind me what is API? Application Programming Interface. So the application programming interface basically allows for developers to sync data from multiple platforms and allows you then allows the communication rather between the entities, what you call it, business, i.e. your ERP. So what is your ERP is basically your line of business, okay? So it just allows for that easy communication. Now you may ask, okay, listen, we use online banking, we're doing this. So as you know, as time goes, everything advances, okay? So this is basically integrated channel. This is a new thing that is out. So with host-to-host and API, it's computer-to-computer interaction. There's no human intervention. With the online banking platform, it's client with the automated interaction. So at integrated banking, it's a high level of automation, as I've mentioned, and it's a communication between your line of business with the data that has been extracted and funds coming into the account. Okay, so if we can go on. All right, next slide. So I've got this slide. It's quite detailed. It's called Integrated Channel API Capabilities. Just touching on API, I haven't included the online banking and I haven't included a host-to-host. So simply put, you as the entity is looking for optimization, you're looking at reduction in fraud, you're looking at simplification, you're looking at productivity, you're looking at I did say efficiency, and everything, as I've mentioned in the initial slide, it's solutioning for easy banking, right? So I'm not going to go into it in the details because, as I've mentioned, we've got limited time. Okay, but please, once again, I would allow you to engage with me so we can share the details as well. All you need to take with you today with respect to integrated channel is that it is the new thing that's out there, and it's allowing for less human engagement, reduction of fraud, optimization, securitization. Okay, so next slide. So the second aspect or topic that was included in the introduction or content was receipting and validation. So what is receipting and validation? As you know, your students make payments into your bank account. And so basically, you as the university, you obviously include a reference validation that the students would need to capture. And then the reason for that is for easy reconciliation and to, of course, reduce the number of unallocated deposits. So that is, in essence and in total, your receipting products suite. And I've included public recipients. So public recipients, doesn't matter who you bank with. Say you bank with FNB, but I, as a student, I bank with Netbank per se. I can do my payment via Netbank into FNB, and you as the entity would you will be loaded as a public recipient. So just like how you pay your bill with the municipality, it doesn't matter who they bank with, doesn't matter who you bank with, but that particular municipality is loaded as a public recipient, okay? And that also, again, reduces your unallocated deposits, okay? Next slide. So this is basically just the workflow in terms of receipting solution and where the reference validation fits in. So quite simply, payment to the university. The reference validation is basically the student number or ID number, whatever you as a university has implemented. The payment is then complete, real-time credit to the entity's account, and the general, it will generate a receipt IT message, which is basically what I spoke about in the previous slide, and it adds that transaction to both the debtor's statement as well as your bank account. All right. And as I've already indicated, it allocates the funds to the correct student account based on that transactional reference. Okay, next slide. Right, so now I've reached the end of my presentation and I've just touched on student payment. I'm not going to, this is for me to engage with you, or rather for you to engage with me, this particular slide. So currently with NSFAS, your TVET payments are done directly by NSFAS. Now, at the present moment, you as the universities, you currently either, I think UKZN, you do direct EFT payments into the student's account. Some universities are utilizing suppliers, etc. So for me, I just want to engage with the different universities here today to understand if you are using suppliers, which suppliers you are using, and if you are paying by EFT, if you could kindly just share with me afterwards when we're having tea or something, you, just to say, listen, MUT, we pay via EFT to the learners. We do bank NSFAS, so it's just for me to get information, okay? And thank you. I hand over to my colleague Daya. Pay careful attention to Daya because he's got some money to give to you at the end.
Guys, can you believe what she did? She put me on the spot. I didn't come with any cash on me. But if you pay careful attention, I'm definitely going to be giving somebody some money. Right. So, Kelly, thank you so much for the opportunity to calibrate with your department. We appreciate this. And like my colleague Chantal mentioned, my name is Daya, and I take care of banking on the personal side. So I look after you. And trust me, there's some lovely benefits that I'm going to share with you. But since she mentioned about the money, guys, I can see already everybody's looking at me. You want to know how you're going to win the money. So do you want me to stop the presentation and tell you how you win the money first? No, I'm going to wait. You have to wait till the end, right? But trust me, get your phones ready. There's going to be a QR code for you there, right? So, guys, how are we different from the other banks? So what I actually want to position to you here today is that we have an on-site service model. And I've already been to some of the universities and the TVET colleges, and those guys know exactly what we do when we do come out. So we actually position bankers on site to assist you together with the students in terms of your personal banking. So we don't want you taking time off to go to a branch or a bank, hence the partnership, with the FNB and yourselves. So guys, please take advantage of this partnership because that's what I'm promising you here today, an on-site service model. So what we do when we do come out on site, guys, we give you advice in terms of integrated advice, how to manage your debt, putting a will in place. If you are buying a property, there are special benefits for you as employees. So just to give you an overview, I can't go into too much of detail with this, but we do have our bankers in the back there. You can also come and chat to us, exchange details, and we're happy to engage with you, one-on-one. So if you are buying a property, guys, just remember, you'll qualify for less 50% on your bond cost. That's your bond registration cost. Also, we will give you a rate reduction of 0.25%. And for those of you that already bank with FNB, we are going to reward you in the form of e-bucks up to 6,100 Rand when you do your mortgage with FNB. How cool is that, guys? Anybody in the market to buy a property? Just remember, these are the benefits. If you are currently with another financial institution and you switch to FNB, guys, we are going to cover all of that cost. And the benefit to you is that you're going to enjoy a rate reduction of 0.25% as well. E-bucks capped at 6,100 Rand on your first installment as well. When you're buying a vehicle, you're going to enjoy a rate reduction of 0.25%. And if you fall in our private banking space, in the private wealth specifically, you'll enjoy prime less one on a vehicle. Yes, you heard me right, prime less one, guys. So if you factor in prime less one and you do the calculation over the term, you're going to be saving quite a substantial amount. So when it comes to our transactional banking, for those of you who are not with FNB and you decide to switch, as I mentioned earlier, you'll fall in the private banking space. You'll have a dedicated resource to take care of you. We are going to waive the monthly account fees for the next 6 months. Your monthly account fee, yes, for the next 6 months. Purely because in this transition phase, we don't want you to incur 2 bank account fees when you're moving your debit orders and your salaries. Hence, we waive the monthly account fee for the next 6 months. So the next thing I want to talk about is insurance. Guys, I'm not an insurance broker, but working in the bank, I can share some first-hand experience with you when we have customers or we do come across customers that are not adequately insured. And what do I mean by not adequately insured? When you add up or you tally up your debt, you need to have insurance far in excess of your debt amount. So it's nice to have a funeral policy, but not multiple funeral policies. One is good enough. Make sure you have life cover, guys. In the event you pass away, you're going to be taking care of your family members that you leave behind together with your kids. Most importantly, if you have a mortgage, guys, make sure you have a mortgage protection cover. In the event you pass away, that property is paid off. You now have a freehold property. I want to share an experience with you, and this has been a learning lesson during the pandemic. We've had clients who've had multiple properties, whether it was commercial or residential, and some of them didn't even have the mortgage protection cover. When they passed away, sadly, we had the surviving spouse calling on us to ask us a few questions. Did my husband have a will? Was he insured? Did he have a funeral cover? Did we have mortgage protection cover? Guys, sometimes we had to be the bearer of bad news and let that surviving spouse know none of this was in place. Guys, I'm not going to get into the intricacies of estate planning. We have a specialist whom we can refer you to, or when you exchange details, we can get that person to call you. You can set up time and make sure you structure your estate planning correctly. Okay, just so you know that if you do a will, for those of you that bank with FNB, I'm sure you're already familiar with this, that you can get a will drawn up free of charge, and also we waive the safe custody fees. So we don't charge you for the drafting. Thank you, Kelly. We don't charge you for the drafting as well as the safe custody fee. So guys, if you don't have a will, please come and talk to us. We'll show you how easy it is. You know that FNB has been the leader in innovation when it comes to banking. So we don't want you to walk into a branch to do your will. We're going to show you from the palm of your hand with your smart device on the banking app how you can do your will. Okay, so that's around the will. For those of us that are currently in a credit cycle, meaning that you have a credit card, you have a personal loan, guys, by no means am I here to advocate credit. However, how you can benefit when you bank with FNB, or if you're already in the credit cycle, we encourage you to switch your credit, meaning that if you have a credit card, for example, at FAPSA, and you move that credit card across to FNB, guys, we will give you up to 3% of the rates that you are paying at the other bank. That's on a credit card. On a personal loan, up to 2%. So what am I speaking to about here is literally freeing up cash flow, guys. We're not giving you a new facility. We're saying switch to FNB, and that's how you can benefit with the rate reductions that we have in place. When it comes to our FNB Connect offering, so for those of you who may have our SIM card, you know that we don't lock you into any contracts, either 24 or 36 months. It's prepaid or postpaid. It's month to month. And if you bank with FNB already, guys, remember, this is something that has just come into place on the 1st of July. We reward you with 2 gigs of WhatsApp data. How cool is that? I have to ask you guys, is your bank giving you that? 2 gigs of WhatsApp data. You know you can get an unlimited package with FNB, a SIM card only, no device, and we don't lock you into any contracts. 499 Rand a month, unlimited minutes, SIM card only. Guys, when it comes to our investment side and offerings, speak to us. We tailor-make individual advice packages for you in terms of the term that you want to invest, the amount, whether you want to do on or offshore investments. We have wealth managers that can give you that personalized information as well. You can move to the next slide, please. So by show of hands, guys, how many of you do bank with FNB? Wow, so we got so many cool people in this room. That's awesome. Now, you know with eBucks, this is how you bank at a profit. Do you agree with me, guys, for those of you who bank with us? Great. I'm just going to share some highlights with eBucks. Remember, your fuel partner is Engen. You can get up to 8 Rand back per liter, guys. Are you aware of that? And how do you get this 8 Rand back per liter? Remember, you must, this lady in the front here, what's your name? Tubby. Tubby is giving me all the answers. But you still have to enter the competition to win the voucher, all right? Guys, the 8 Rand back per liter is when you tap your device, you know, your smartphone, if your vehicle is financed through Westbank, and if your vehicle is also insured, your STI, your short-term insurance, is with FNB, you get up to 8 Rand back per liter when you are on level 5. Guys, can we not do with 8 rand back per litre on fuel? I'm sure we all can, given currently it's sitting at about 20 rand, or just over 20 rand, am I right? Your grocery partner, remember, it's ShopRite and Checkers. Up to 15% back on your spend, guys. Your toiletries with Clicks, 15% again. Are you aware that FNB will reward you with a Starbucks voucher to the value of 44 Rand every week? Tabi is going, because she's taking advantage of that already. Guys, just for tapping your phone, every week, FNB will send you a voucher to the value of 44 Rand to use at Starbucks. We're saying thank you for tapping. When I mentioned this about tapping, the issue on security comes to play. So let me dispel some myths around security, guys. And when you tap your phone, remember I mentioned earlier, FNB is a very innovative bank. So what we've done around security is that if you turn or you look at the reverse of your credit card, you'll see there's a CVV number there, a 3-digit CVV number. With FNB, that number changes every 15 minutes, guys. It's just enhancing your security when you tap your device. Right. Remember, just around security as well, if you leave your smart device unlocked, somebody can tap that phone. So make sure it's always locked, either via a biometrics access, face recognition, or a code or a design that you get into your phone. Just remember, security is very, very important, guys. Your money is yours, am I right? You need to protect it, correct? You don't share passwords and you don't share your PINs. You don't keep a PIN and your card together as well. So what are some of our other partners, guys, when it comes to rewards? So for those of you who travel, and I'm sure many of you do, you know you have access to the slow lounge, whether it's domestic or international. If you are on our reward level 5, guys, you can get up to 40% off on domestic as well as international flights. And for those of you who like a Wimpy burger, and if you travel, you know you do your road trips, every quarter, FNB will reward you with a Wimpy burger meal to the value of 80 Rand. Now, guys, imagine this. You're doing a road trip. Tabi and a partner and 2 kids all bank with FNB. And they do this road trip, and they decide, okay, we're going to have breakfast. We're pulling off at a select engine Wimpy one stop, and the meal is on FNB, guys. How cool is that? The bank is paying for your meal. If you don't like the Wimpy burger meal, we also give you a Kauai voucher to the value of 120 Rand when you maintain your level 5 e-box reward. So guys, your rewards program is something that you should master. I'll tell you why I say this. This is what makes you bank at a profit. Simply what I'm saying is, if you're paying 250 Rand a month on your monthly account fee, you must be able to get up to 3 times that back in rewards. Then you know you are banking correctly and you are maximizing on your rewards. So before I leave, guys, I just want to share an incident with you. You know, I was at the Florida Road branch this morning before I come here. And I couldn't help but notice, you know, the ATMs were quite busy. And there was a very, very pretty lady standing at the ATM. But it just confused me because she was standing there on one leg. And I walked into the branch and I came back. I saw this lady still standing there on one leg. So I walked up to her and asked her, ma'am, you know, you've been standing here for the last 10 minutes. Is there a problem? She said, do you mind? I'm checking my balance. I'll leave you with that. And Kali, if you can move to the next screen, guys. So this is how, get your phones out, guys. I need you to scan that QR code. You're going to put in your details. Please make sure your contact number is correct. My lady in Johannesburg is going to do a randomizer draw, and then she'll give me that details, and I'm going to call that person who's going to win the 1,000 Rand. Are we a cool bank or what? I want to hear you say, are we a cool bank or not? Thank you very much, Kali. We appreciate the opportunity. Guys, we're going to be in the back. Please come and engage us if you need any information on your personal banking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Guy.
you,
Thank you so much. Visit him at the back there. Thank you so much. Scan that QR code. All right, you can also scan at the back. But just give me a second to move on. You can still scan there. Colleagues, before tea, just one quick other formality out of the way. Braden, you want to join me? Do you want to do your thing? No, do it. Who is it? Who is it? Yeah. Mr. Ngob? From SAP. Are you here? SAPCO. It's not from House and Home, ne? Dan will just hand over a token of our appreciation for your commitment and to present here at FAPSA. All right, can we give him a hand? Ish. Ah, that is flow, man. Yeah? I think from now on, for the next few minutes, tell the person next to you that he's going to clap, right, for you. And then the next clap, the other person is going to clap. Maybe it will sound better. I don't know. You can try that. Colleagues, this is now the time we can go to tea now. The arrangement is is it right? Or? Yeah, the tea is getting cold. So, colleagues, if we can just move to the left-hand side, I think tea is served until 1:45. No, Brady. Oh, it's 1:15 now. How many? 15 minutes? Half past. Yeah. Okay, colleagues, correction. Can we have it 1:30? Back in the room, please. Is that okay? We want to finish up. Thank you so much. You may go to tea. Thank you so much. Ah, you got some music there. Nothing. The DJ, there's no music there.